Hello everybody, back again with another video. Hope you're doing well, hope your life's going well, hope this week has gone well for you, and hope that today has gone well for you. Today is Friday. We've made it to Friday. It is March the 28th, 2025. It's about 9:04 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I hope that you all had a wonderful work week. We made it through the work week. I hope that it was productive for you and non-stressful. And since the weekend is coming up, I really hope that you have some fun weekend plans for this weekend. In this video, I want to talk about tiny homes. Now, there are many tiny home communities that are popping up all over the United States. And, I really like the concept of tiny homes, right? They're homes that are, obviously not very big, hence the name tiny home. And, with a tiny home, it provides the opportunity to get more people into home ownership, right? Without the hefty price tag of a home. And I was watching some YouTube shorts about some of these tiny home communities out in San Antonio, Texas. They look pretty cool. They're tiny homes, so you're not gonna have like a garage or a huge backyard or anything like that, or 3 or 4 different bedrooms, but they're good for somebody that is single, right? Doesn't have any kids, or maybe a couple that's okay with living in a smaller space. That's who these tiny homes are really designed for. They're not necessarily designed for a family. It's just too small of a space for a family, really. I'm pretty sure there's going to be people that try to make it work with a family, but these houses are too small for a family. But that's who it's designed for, single people that want to get into home ownership, and couples. And, I have a problem with these tiny homes, though. Well, with some of these tiny homes. The problem is the price tag. These houses, right? Like, I'll look at these YouTube shorts of these tiny homes in San Antonio, right? And they're selling for $130, $140, $150, $160, and higher and higher. And, on one hand, I'm like, what? In this economy, in 2025, for a home, we're just talking about a home, just in general, that's not too bad. But when you consider the fact that we're talking about a 700 square foot tiny home, a 650 square foot tiny home for $150,000, that's just too much to me, right? That's a high price. And I get it, everything's expensive nowadays. I'm sure the cost to build houses in general has gone up as well, but still, I just don't think these houses are worth that kind of money. These houses should not be anywhere near the mid $100,000 range. It shouldn't be, between 130, 160, and 170. Like, that's too expensive, right? I mean, think about what you're getting. You're getting a home with pretty much one bedroom, right? A living space, no garage. Like, you really don't get a backyard like that. And they want $150,000 for that. That's something. And I talked about this on my other channel as well. I have another channel where I just kind of talk about just different things that I see going on. But that channel is not really in like ASMR form. I'm actually going to have a link to that channel in the pinned comments below if you're interested. But, I was talking about how, if you think about it, for that same price, you could buy a plot of land, a mobile home, and pay to get the electric, water, and sewage hookups to that mobile home, right? And the mobile home is going to be bigger than that tiny home, more than likely. And you're going to have a huge plot of land, right? Now, of course, it depends on where you live as to what the cost would be for the plot of land. It depends on the size as well. The closer you are to a big metropolitan city, the more expensive that land is going to be. But if you can, find some land that's far from the city, it won't be as expensive. And you can have a mobile home put out there and, just be living life, I know sometimes I go out in the country and I'll see people with, mobile homes with huge plots of land. They got all kind of animals living on the land as well. Cows, chickens, horses, you name it. And they just living life out in the country, And I guarantee you, they're not paying, they didn't pay no $160,000, or maybe they did. But if you think about it, if they paid $150,000 for that plot of land, plus the mobile home, plus, the hookups for electricity and water and sewage, if you think about it, that person with the mobile home got a way better deal than somebody that buys one of these tiny homes. Because, that's the dream for many people. Huge plot of land, far away from your neighbors, less noise, because when you go out in the country too, it's a lot less noise out. The only noise you will probably hear is the wind blowing and the animals, making sounds. But, with these tiny homes, again, I like the concept. I really do. And let me say this. Is buying one of these tiny homes better than living in an apartment, right? That's the ultimate question for many people that currently live in an apartment. That's the ultimate question. Is a tiny home that costs $130, $140, $150,000 a better overall deal than just paying rent, at the one of these apartments, where you're paying $13, $14, $1,500 a month? Is a tiny home better? In my opinion, yes, it is. Because guess what? With the tiny home, at least you're not sharing walls, right? With a tiny home, at least you don't have to worry about parking because, obviously you got the little small driveway where you can park a car. So you don't have to worry about, parking or having to park real far because the apartment that you live in, like, barely has any parking spaces. You don't have to worry about things like that. Now, as to the quality of the building materials that they use to build these tiny homes, I'm not 100% sure what the actual quality is, but there has been a trend over the past, actually for many years now, where a lot of these home builders, home developers are using like cheaper materials. So I don't know the materials that are being used for these tiny homes, but that is what's going on. So I don't know. I guess if it was me, I wouldn't expect the building materials to be like top quality, especially for a tiny home. And so, and they're selling them at a cheaper price than, say, a normal house. Now, $150,000 for a tiny home, right? That's in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio, Texas is considered to be a lower cost of living city, compared to cities in, out west, Phoenix, or places in California, Oregon, New York, East Coast. It's cheaper than those places. Like, can you imagine how much these tiny homes would go for, somewhere in like California or somewhere on the East Coast, like New York? They would be so much more expensive, and they really wouldn't be worth it then. But again, I guess it depends on the person and their goals in life. If they really just want to get into home ownership, I guess a tiny home isn't too bad, even though in my opinion it's still very overpriced. In my opinion, these tiny homes really should not be over $100,000 at all. Kind of thinking about it, ideally these houses should be about anywhere between $50,000 and like $80,000 or $90,000. If I'm being honest with you, remember $150,000 about 10 years ago, that'll get you a decent starter home that's actually regular size and has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms in it. That's what $150,000 would get you about 10 years ago. But nowadays that gets you a tiny home, and it's sad that that's the reality that we live in. That's considered normal, right? It's like they kind of want to normalize this amount of money, $150,000 for a tiny home in Texas, by the way, right? Because you talk about these higher cost of living cities and states. Yeah, you paying about, well over $200,000 for a tiny home in like one of these really expensive places, which is just absolutely insane. But again, yes, it's better than an apartment. I don't necessarily think it's a good deal, but it is better than an apartment. And so, I do think that they're going to build more and more of these in the future, as housing gets more and more unaffordable, because I really don't think that housing is going to go down in price. It's, housing historically has really only gone up in price, with few exceptions, of course, but in general, it goes up in price, right? It doesn't really go down and just stay there for like a long period of time. So, tiny homes, again, they can be a good option for someone who's single or a couple. But if you want a family, these aren't it. You need a regular size house, and we know how unaffordable those are nowadays. How expensive they are. So, tiny homes. Would you live in a tiny home? Let me know below. Let me know in the comments below. Would you live in one of these tiny homes? Right? Now, another thing with tiny homes is that you can buy a plot of land and have a tiny home built on your own land. Right? And that might be a better deal than even a tiny home community, because I was looking at how close the tiny homes were to one another, and they're pretty like close to each other, even though obviously you're not sharing walls, which is always better than sharing walls in an apartment. They're still pretty close to one another, but I guess some people don't mind living in a community. But I'm sure there's many people, because you can have these tiny homes built on your own like plot of land, and I'm sure they're not too expensive to have built. So I mean, that could be an option as well, right? Buy a plot of land and have a tiny home built on your plot of land, and then just pay to have the electric and sewer and water hookups to the tiny home. And that's an option, right? If you're somebody that doesn't mind such a small space, but you really don't want to live close to like neighbors like that, this could be an option. But then again, I mean, you still get more space in a mobile home if you think about it. Well, usually you do. And more bedrooms, because I think a lot of these tiny homes only have like one bedroom. And so, unless I haven't seen any with 2 bedrooms in it. I'm sure there's tiny homes with multiple bedrooms, but I just haven't really seen any. So, yeah. I don't know. I like the idea of these different types of housing, though. Non-traditional housing, right? Mobile homes or manufactured homes, or park RVs, or tiny homes. I do like the concept of the non-traditional house. And again, more and more people are going to be moving into these types of houses soon, right? As the price of housing goes up and up and up, right? You're going to have more people living in RVs. You're going to have more people living out of their cars. The just the whole like landscape of housing is changing, right? And that's what we're seeing out here. So anyway, I do thank y'all for watching. I hope that you're relaxed, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening.